Hi, you guys. Sorry I'm not there to talk you through 10.4a questions and teach you 10.4b, but this is the next best thing. So if you have questions from 10.4a, feel free to ask the people around you when the video is done. You have a lot of smart people in these classes, and I'm sure they would love to help if there's something you don't understand. So ask away. We're going to do 10.4b right now, which is ellipses. And with ellipses, I just want to do a quick reminder of the things we talked about. So first of all, the equation, right? And you don't necessarily need to write this down. You have this in the notes just above, but I just want to refresh. The equation is this: x squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared equals 1. Okay, and remember, when you're asked to write the equation, it is always going to look like this. Okay, you just need to figure out what a squared and b squared are and drop those in. Okay, so that's one thing. And then just kind of the graph of it and how it's set up. If this is my graph, you have an ellipse will look something potentially like this. Ooh, that's terrible. Try again. Still terrible. You'll get the idea. So this is a value of b up here, and a length of negative b down here, a length of a over here, and a length of negative a over here. And then you'll have a focus. Remember, the focus is always with the vertices. So our a's would be our vertices right now. That would be our focus, and the length from the center to the focus is your c value. Okay, so this is all the stuff you did for the homework that was due today. And then the last thing is the Foci equation is either c squared equals a squared minus b squared, or c squared equals b squared minus a squared, depending on which one's bigger. Okay, bigger minus smaller is how it's always going to go, and we'll play into that a little bit with what we do today. Okay, so this first one says write the equation of the ellipse, and they give you vertices and they give you co-vertices. Now, you do not have to graph this, okay? If you want to graph it, you are welcome to, just to kind of give you a visual. So I'll plot these points just to show you. So the vertices are at 0, 7, and 0, negative 7. So you're going to go up 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and negative 7. Okay, those are your vertices. And then co-vertices are at plus or minus 2, 0. So 2 to the left, 2 to the right. So your general ellipse shape would look like this. Okay, but really you don't need to graph this one. If you just keep in mind, when it says write the equation of an ellipse, it's always going to be x squared over something plus y squared over something equals 1. And your job is to figure out what those somethings are. So if you can remember that your x value is going to go with your a and your y value is going to go with your b, you can do it that way. Or if you're a visual person, just look at it this way. This is your a value, and this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? What we plotted is your b value. Sorry, I'm outside and apparently someone needs to honk their horn, and there's a siren. Okay, so when you plug this in, then it is a squared and b 7 squared will be your setup. So your simplest version of this is x squared over 4 plus y squared over 49 equals 1. Okay, so that's number 6 there. All right, number 7. This says write the equation of the ellipse, and you have foci at plus or minus 7, 0, and co-vertices at 0, plus or minus 6. So the foci, remember in your notes, if you look back, the foci always uses your c value. So that means 7 is your c value, right? The foci was at c0 or 0c, depending on what your problem was. And then your covertices at 0 plus or minus 6, this is going to be your b value because it's with y. Okay, so if you want to plot those, like I said, plot them, that's fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 0, and negative 7, 0. Those are your foci. Covertices 6 and negative 6. Okay, so we don't have our vertices right now. But if we're writing an equation, we know it's going to be x squared over something plus y squared over something equals 1, okay? And we just said we know our b. So we know that our b value is 6, which means our b squared, which will go right here, is going to be 36. But we don't know our a value, okay? Our a value is going to be somewhere around here because our ellipse is going to look something like that. Oh, my freehanding right now is fantastic. So what we have to do is figure out what is that a value. Well, you kind of have to think through this, okay? Remember, the formulas are c squared equals a squared minus b squared, or c squared equals b squared minus a squared. And we always said it's going to be bigger minus smaller. Well, you can see here that your a value is going to be bigger because your foci are bigger already than this one, right? That's at 7, this is at 6. So we know that our a value is going to be bigger. So it's going to be this equation, okay? Or you can just memorize that that one goes with this setup. That's fine too. But that means it's going to be c squared, so 7 squared, equals b squared, or sorry, a squared, minus your b squared, okay? So 6 squared. So this is 49 equals a squared minus 36. So we're going to add 36. Okay, and you get a squared equals, this would be 85. Okay, now it's really tempting right now to square root that. But remember, a squared is what goes here. So I'm not going to square root it. I'm going to leave it as 85. And that is my answer. Okay, don't square root it. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking for a little bit, but leave this running so that you have a little bit of time. But I want you to try this one on your own. Okay, so give this a go. See if you can write the equation of the ellipse, given that you have a foci of 0 plus or minus 8 and covertices of plus or minus 4, 0. And feel free to talk with a neighbor if you're getting stuck on it. I'm gonna give you like 30 seconds to work on this real fast. Sorry if you're hearing my dog in the background. All right, so let's think about what we have. If you've not figured it out yet, that's okay. This will be your C value, right? Because it's your foci. Foci, remember foci C, right? Covertices has a C. Maybe you don't need to think of it that way. But the foci is always where your C comes in, okay? Your covertices here, this is your X value. And remember, your X is always your A in this setup. So your A is going to be 4. Your C is going to be 8. If you want to plot it, foci of 0 plus or minus 8 is going to go here and here, okay? And then covertices of plus or minus 4, 0 would be here and here. So those are your covertices, okay? That means, is A or B going to be bigger? Your general shape is going to be something like this. So you should be seeing that your B value is going to be your bigger value, and it's always bigger minus smaller, right? So it's going to be C squared equals B squared minus A squared, bigger minus smaller. So C squared, 8 squared equals B squared, which we don't know, minus your a value, which was this one, or the 4. Okay, so simplify that. 64 equals b squared minus 16. So you're going to add 16. And that means your b squared is 80. And again, don't square root that. We know when we're writing the equation of an ellipse, it's always going to be x squared over something plus y squared over something equals 1. My a squared, right, this number is coming from here. So we just said a squared, or you can even pull it from here. You already found it. That's going to be a 16. And then our b squared, remember a squared here, b squared here. Our b squared is going to be the 80, and that's going to be our equation. Okay. Okay, now they're going to start giving you some different things, but if you just stop and think about it, you can do this. It says write the equation of the ellipse. So again, you know your answer. Your answer is going to be x squared over something plus y squared over something equals 1. Okay, your job is figure out those somethings. What is a squared? What is b squared? Well, they tell us the focus is at 0, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and you have a y-intercept at 5. So a y-intercept for 5 right here. Now everything we're doing is centered at 0, 0. So that means my other focus is down here, 3 down, and my other intercept is at -5 down here. Ask yourself this question: are those the vertices or the covertices? The vertices always go with the foci, right? So this is vertices. That also gives us our b value. So this is going to represent our b, right? The length from 0, 0 to our vertex there is our b value. So if that's b, then b squared, or 25, is going to go under our y squared. Okay, so we know that. And then we know our c value. Do you see the c value? Your c value, remember, c comes from the focus, so our c value is the 3. Okay, so now you have to ask, is my a going to be bigger or my b going to be bigger? Well, the general look of this is it's going to be a longer ellipse, not the wider ellipse, because of where our foci are. So that means our b value is going to be bigger than our a value. So it's going to be c squared equals bigger minus smaller, b squared minus a squared. So let's plug in what we know. 3 squared, b squared, equals, b is 5, so 5 squared minus a squared. Okay. Then from here, we solve for a. So if you do, this would be 9 and 25, right? So if I take away 25 on both sides, 9 minus 25 is a -16, and that's equal to a negative a squared. We don't want a negative a squared, so we would just divide by -1, and you get 16 is a squared. So that is going to go right here. So your equation, x squared over 16 plus y squared over 25 equals 1. Okay. All right, last one for today, and then you'll have the rest of the class period to work on the homework. Ask your neighbors if you're struggling at all, okay? Okay, so this one, they give you the focus, and they give you the width. So here's the thing. We know we're centered at 0, 0, right? This is going to be our center, because that's everything that we've done is the center. Maybe I shouldn't put a C there. I don't want to confuse that for the value of C. Our C value always comes from the focus. So our C value, right, this is C0. So 5 or -5, it doesn't really matter what you plug in, because when you square it, it's going to become positive. So you can just plug in a 5. -5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Puts one focus here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Another focus there. Okay. Again, you don't have to graph this. You just have to write the equation. So we know the equation is x squared over something plus y squared over something equals 1. We need an a squared and we need a b squared. So let's think about this. If the width of our ellipse is 14, that means from 0, 0, we have to go 7 to the left and 7 to the right, right? The length of our major axis is 2 times our a value. So 2 times 7 would give us 14. That means our ellipse is going to look something along these lines. So our a value, right, this is your a value, is going to be bigger than whatever our b value is. This is not necessarily b, but it's going to be shorter, right, because the foci are with our a right now. So that's the longer side. So our c value, well, oh, did I say c? I meant b. I might have said b. Sorry if I said c. Our c value's here, right? So we're going to say c squared equals, and then bigger minus smaller, in this case, a squared is bigger, this is our a, minus b squared, which we don't know yet. Okay, so c squared, 5 squared, equals your a value was the 7. Okay, so 7 squared minus b squared. So we'll subtract that. Okay, take away 7 squared is 49. So you're doing 25 minus 49. So you get a negative 24 equals a negative b squared. So if you divide by -1, you get b squared is 24. Okay, that's going to go here. B squared is 24. A squared, we already found up here, 7 squared or 49. So this is your answer. Okay. And then I want to show you one more thing because this is going to show up in the homework and I don't want you to be confused. So I'm just going to move over here for a minute and just show you one item. I think it's, gosh, number 20 in the homework and maybe number 36 in the homework. Will look something like this. So let me just give you a for instance. This might be the actual problem. I can't remember. Okay, they give you this and they tell you to find like the equation, the standard form of the equation of your ellipse. We got to figure out what that looks like. Okay, and this is not what we're used to. Remember, we always say your general setup should be, x squared over something plus y squared over something equals what? Equals 1, right? So if we want this to equal 1 on that side, we have to divide everything because you can't just divide one thing. It's the golden rule of algebra. Whatever you do to one side, you got to do to the other, okay? So we're going to divide everything by 9. Then what happens is 3 over 9, that becomes x squared over 3. Y squared over 9 is going to stay y squared over 9. And then 9 over 9 is 1. So this is your standard form of the equation. So when you see something that looks like this, don't let it freak you out. Make it equal 1 by dividing by whatever this number is, and you'll be able to get to that general form of your equation. Okay? So that's the lesson. Hopefully I'm here tomorrow and I can teach you 10.5a in person, but you'll have the rest of the class period to work on that homework.